Welcome to our Ask the Experts. So today we've got Fiona Anderson and Richard Butcher from the C2C Capital Growth Hub. And we're going to hear all about how the Growth Hub can help you and your business. I don't think, Fiona, you need a bigger build-up than me. I'm aware of the excellent work that you've been doing and will continue to do. So I think over to you to kick off with the presentation, and then I know we've got plenty of time for questions and comments and everything else at the end. So let's get into it. Okay, Fiona, I think you're starting and then Richard is following. Is that right? Or?
Well, yeah, I'll just do a quick intro about myself, and then Richard, my colleague, I'll hand over to Richard. He's going to do the first part of the presentation. We don't expect the presentation to take longer than 20-25 minutes, just to really allow for a lot of questions at the end. So hopefully a lot of you will have questions. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of C2C Capital, maybe not so as aware of what the Growth Hub does and the work we do around the C2C Capital region. But just a little, I do know a lot of you, so nice to see a lot of you that I haven't seen for a while. But just to give you a little bit of an overview about myself, I worked for NatWest RBS Group for about 17 years, largely in the Sussex region. Latterly, I managed and ran the Entrepreneurial Spark Accelerator Hub in Brighton, which was a fantastic opportunity for me. I worked with businesses of all stages, worked from very early stage pre-startup all the way to high growth scaling businesses seeking investment and accessing new markets. So I joined C2C Capital in October last year and have been covering the Crawley Gatwick area and the East Surrey patch, working very closely with the local authorities, membership bodies such as Gatwick Diamond Business, and really working very hands-on with businesses that need our support and our help with their growth aspirations. So not just funding and finance, but also other more strategic sides of their business. So I don't want to take up any more time. I'll hand over to my colleague, Richard.
Before you start, Richard, I should have said up front, please make good use of the chat facility. You'll have the opportunity to actually ask questions yourself, but meanwhile, do make good use of the chat.
Thanks, Jeff. Right, nice to meet everybody. People I know already and people fresh to us. So thanks for the opportunity, Jeff, to present what we do. Growth hubs up and down the country are not really marketed very well. So to get our message out about how we can provide business support, we do rely on events like this with our colleagues. So Fiona, if you could put up the next slide, please.
Sorry.
So first, I'll just give a quick overview about what the Growth Hub is. So essentially, it's a free service funded by government to provide business support for established growing businesses in our area, which is West Sussex, Greater Brighton and East Surrey. We do this through a team of growth advisors, including Fiona and myself, and we're geographically based, so we'll cover different areas. The sort of things that we talk about with our clients range from business planning, marketing, raising finance. And I thought I'd just give you an example. I spoke to a client yesterday who's in the business of providing security for corporates, but they're focused on, they've got one client who provides 80% of their income, which is far too imbalanced. So we talked about developing a value proposition, getting into more public sector opportunities, improvements to their website, and so forth. So it's very much a bespoke service, depending on what the client we're talking to, what their issues are. So our role is to get to know the client, work with them on an ongoing basis to meet their challenges. If you could put the next slide, Fiona. So just a brief update on what the LEPs are. There are 38 LEPs in the UK, and in C2C Capital, which was developed 9 years ago, we've invested more than £300 million of public money in local infrastructure We do that working with local businesses, with the local authorities, to identify at a local level what is the blockage, where's the best investment of government money. And thank goodness they don't try and decide that at cabinet level. So if you could move on, Fiona. So to support the work we do, we have a series of different diagnostic tools. So for instance, we have Growth Mapper. This is a holistic diagnostic which is undertaken by the management team, and it ensures we look at everything is aligned in terms of their operations, their marketing, their finance. And it gives a really good insight so that we can work with the management team to identify what the issues are and the best way of going forward. Grow My Company is a benchmarking tool so the company can see how well it's performing with its peers in its own sector in terms of growth, turnover and sales performance. Another one is called DNA Sticks. This is a really powerful tool with the reliance and importance on digital marketing these days. We're able to work with the client with this to see how well they're doing on social media, how effective their website is, how well they're communicating with their customers. So these are just some of the tools that we can bring to support the business. In the 18 months that I've been with Coast Capital, of course, most of the conversations have involved COVID support or EU transition. So we've been helping companies to pivot, bring in new software, develop new strategies, enter new markets. And it's been really exciting and inspiring, I must say, to see how companies have responded in this crisis, and been proud to play a part with that. On EU transition, about 10% of companies in our area are involved in importing or exporting. So we've been working closely with them to identify the potential impact on their sector and come up with action plans to get through them. And we've seen a lot of change. I mean, particularly on horticulture, where the new requirements are quite complicated. So we've had experts from Newable who've been able to give one-to-one advice to those companies to get through the solution. I just thought I'd give one example of a client where we've been able to make an impact. So this is a company based on the coast who makes meals for nursery schools, about 300 clients. I went to see the owners of the business and they said, we can't understand, Richard, we've got 25 people working here. We're turning over £3 million and I don't have any profit. Can you help us find out what that is? So we went through their accounts, we talked to their accountants and looked at their pricing, and we discovered that their pricing was just too low and that they were never going to make a profit. They hadn't worked out how to cost their service. They hadn't allowed for the delivery charges from the drivers. They hadn't allowed for the wages of the kitchen staff. So we looked at the real margins they needed to make, implemented a 15% price increase, so they're on a proper sustainable footing, which delivered an additional £150,000 of profit. The management team were very concerned, of course, they'd lose a lot of clients. So we helped them craft a letter explaining why the changes in pricing were needed, and they just lost one client, so it was very successful. So that's just one example of what we do on that side. So really, what the takeaway from the presentation today is to encourage you or your friends who are starting businesses or other businesses you know to contact Coast Capital and have a free business review with one of our team to see how we can support them. So on that basis, I'll now pass over to Fiona.
Thanks, Richard. And yeah, one of the key things there at the bottom of that presentation is that we've so far, and this has just been this year actually, that we've been doing the EU advice. We've supported 146 businesses just in the last 3 months with specialist one-to-one Brexit advice. And I know there's a lot of support out there. There's a lot of the chambers and a lot of the professional services bodies like solicitors and accountants that are doing the same work. So we really do work very closely with each other and share our expertise and our knowledge. So one of the other invaluable, within the Coast Capital Growth Hub, we actually run a number of programs. And one of those programs is our Peer Networks program, which has been highly successful this past year. It started in June last year and has just actually finished this week. We've done our last cohort this week. So what the Peer-to-Peer Networks program consists of is it's really helping leaders within their businesses to work or to be part of a very comfortable environment where there's peers either in similar industries or sectors or also from different backgrounds. So it really allows individuals or business owners to share their challenges, their fears, their opportunities, and to really bounce ideas off each other and help each other in a very kind of safe environment. It's run by MD Hub, which I'm sure a lot of you know. They have done incredibly well and they do great work around the Sussex area. So within in the last year, we've actually been able to support 86 businesses through our cohorts. And at the end of the cohort, each business actually has access to 3.5 hours worth of one-to-one support from the MD Hub, which has gone down really, really well with a lot of our businesses that have been benefited from it. I sat in on one of the peer-to-peer networks sessions and was really blown away by the level of support that is given, and also just by sort of the outcomes of it. And one of my customers benefited hugely from it in terms of being referred on to another customer who so he was a very, very early stage business in the same sector, and was actually referred, formed a friendship almost with this other business owner within the network. And the two of them have gone on to form a fantastic business relationship and really been able to help each other in their businesses and with their suppliers as well, benefiting from reduced costings and pricing by sharing the same suppliers and the same supply network. We have received more funding this year for another peer-to-peer networks program, so that's going to be commencing in June. But applications for expressions of interest will be opening as next week. So we always get our funding from the new financial year. So if you do know of anybody or you are interested, please do go onto our website. You can actually fill in an expression of interest form on there. So I just wanted to highlight, as Richard did, some of the recent business support activity we've given. So apart from, as Richard has touched on, we are essentially business advisors. We give a lot of support to businesses through working very closely with the business owner and understanding their financials, their operational side, their sales and marketing. So on the EU transition support side, we've actually contacted over 8,000 businesses in the last year or so. Spoken on a one-to-one basis with over 2,700 businesses, and have done 896 Brexit impact assessment reports. So you might wonder, like, why is all these numbers relevant? And they actually are very, very relevant because we are funded by the Department for Business, Energy, Industry and Strategy. We actually have to report back to them on the activity that we're doing. And on the back of this activity and these stats, they then provide us with more funding, and they also have a very, very clear idea of what kind of challenges and what kind of support businesses need around our region, but also the other LEPs, as Richard touched on, around the country. So one of our most popular grants this past year has been the Back in Business grant, whereby we had a 2.1 million funding pot. And we managed to support 61 businesses, which has actually created a total of 220 jobs around our region. Interestingly, 44% of that funding has been given to women-owned businesses. Another program I wanted to mention, which is actually managed by the University of Chichester, is the Business Hothouse program, which provides leadership coaching, financial coaching, and operational, so sales and marketing. Alongside the University of Chichester Hothouse program, there's the Invest 4 Fund, which is managed by the Brighton and Hove Council. The Invest 4 Fund is something, so it amounts from £5,000 up to £170,000. It is match funded, but to date, they've only actually allocated about 1% of their total funding pot. So there still is a lot of money available until March next year. So please do either refer businesses onto them, or if you are a business yourself, please do click on the link. We will be sharing this presentation afterwards, so you can click on the link and find out more. We actively support our businesses around the region, as we've touched on with EU transition webinars, and we've undertaken a lot of COVID-19 surveys as well. Most of our funding is actually through the Economic Regional Development Fund and the SME Recovery Grants, which the ERDF fund actually supports a lot of businesses around the country. It's not just the Coast to Capital LEP. So there's lots of different arms of funding from them, which has been supporting businesses out of the current situation with COVID. I just wanted to give you an example of one of the businesses that I've recently been working with. It's a Brighton-based family games company. Kathy Taylor, you might know who I'm speaking about. But they've achieved immense success since 2015, was starting mainly on Amazon. And in 2019, they actually received the UK Small Business of the Year award from Amazon and hit their £1 million turnover last year. Their mission has really been to help families to have fun and to spend more time together by creating a world really where people can build communities and treasured memories together. And they've been especially successful in the last year or so with more people staying at home. So they were really looking to increase their sales globally, to create a new brand and to strengthen their brand and grow their community and empower their team. They're a very small team. There's only 5 of them at the moment, but are looking to grow that team by 1 more person. So I was able to introduce them to somebody locally who's an expert in branding and marketing, and who's been able to really help them to focus on building on their existing brand already, but really also helping them to rebrand and to realize their ambitions of helping charities that can benefit more from their support and building their own database for their customers to enhance their customer offering going forward. We also were able to introduce them to a company we've been working with called Grow Global, which has been doing e-commerce audits for a lot of our businesses free of charge. And that's been invaluable in terms of sort of pivoting their e-commerce model for future growth. So I touched on the business recovery grant. I'm not really going to go into more about that because that unfortunately has passed, but it has been a hugely successful grant that has enabled us to engage with a lot of businesses at different levels around the region. And then some interesting stats around women in business that we've actually been supporting through our grants. So for Coast to Capital, the Women in Business focus is actually going to become very relevant and a key focus going forward into this new financial year. We've recently been engaging with a few of the councils around our region really to support women in business within their regions. But just through our business recovery grant this year, we've engaged with 10% more female-led or owned businesses than we did in our last scheme. So 24% of women-owned businesses in the region have actually received some grant funding through us. To give you an example, that means 44% of the projects that were contracted, or 27 projects, have actually been by female-led or owned businesses. Surprisingly enough, there were none in our applications last year. So there was 0% in the applications last year. And we're not really sure why that is, but we're very pleased that this year that's changed. So 1 in 4 female-owned business applications were approved, as opposed to 1 in 10 male-led business applications. So that's really meant that there's been 112 jobs created in our region through female-owned and led businesses in this past year. As I said, Coast Capital has access now to a licensed database called MNAI, which is a national database that works or provides data purely around women-owned and led businesses in the UK. It's a very powerful platform. You can do all kinds of searches around investment that women have received, what type of investment, whether it's been VC funding, equity funding, who the investors are, what their turnover has been, how many jobs they've created, the average age of the women. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and will be used very much more so going forward certainly in this coming year, but in the coming years as well. So just to touch on some of the key focus areas that the Growth Hub focuses on, we're not sector specific, but in line with the Coast Capital remit, we do prefer to look at sectors that are sort of key at the moment, which is obviously air transport, the visitor economy, horticulture and viticulture, which viticulture especially is a massive industry in Sussex. As we all know, there's some amazing wine farms around our region that have received numerous awards and actually export a lot of their product. Arts and entertainment, publishing, agriculture, forestry and fishing, and also under arts and entertainment is the digital landscape as well. We have a team that works very closely on our inward investment. So we are actually able to enhance our offering with a lot of the businesses we work with through seeking or introducing them to organizations that will actually be able to help them with any inward investment from overseas, but also potentially local businesses that are wanting to actually expand outside of the UK, which at the moment is very key with Brexit. I said we're going to be continuing our peer networks delivery, stronger collaboration with universities and innovation centres. Coast Capital has actually funded the new innovation centre that's being built on the Thales site in Crawley. That's in partnership with Crawley Borough Council and Thales, and that's going to add immense value to our region, not just to the Crawley area, but to the entire region. We also focus very much on skills development and have a team that works with our local schools and colleges around the region, really enhancing skills for future employment opportunities. And one of the strategies of Coast Capital for this coming year is to be implementing 6 key projects in partnership with the local authorities that's going to be focusing mainly on job creation, economic upliftment and community impact. So some of our partnerships, I'm not sure how many of you are aware that we actually do work in very close partnership with a lot of organizations around the region, which has really been a key part of our success. It's really getting the message out to those partners about what we do and how we can work in collaboration with them and by supporting the businesses that they work with. So through being able to work closely with these partners, we've been able to deliver 17 events, obviously all virtually this last year, which has meant that we've been able to help over 500 businesses. A couple of those partnerships, Gatwick Down in Business is obviously one of them. They've been a fantastic support in showcasing some of the work that we do in the newsletters and through the membership. The Department for International Trade is one of our key partnerships. We can point our businesses in the direction of all kinds of support through the DIT, especially businesses wanting to expand and take their businesses outside of the UK. Innovate UK is one of our key partners who works with highly innovative businesses all over the UK and globally. Thales, as I mentioned, with our partnership with the Innovation Centre that's going to be built there. Sussex Innovation, we work very closely with Sussex Innovation Centre, referring a lot of our businesses to some of their programs. Manor Royal Business Park, our local authorities and councils, all the chambers of commerce, which add immense value. And we've run a couple of EU transition sessions with our chambers of commerce, membership organisations such as the Federation of Small Business, and also the Let's Do Business Group, which I'm sure a lot of you know of, and we've been referring businesses onto them that need funding and financial help. And also they run a fantastic Women in Business program. So this is our growth team. We also, Richard, and we've had two other interim consultants working for us the past couple of years. But we also have a team. So Jonathan Alderman is our business analyst. Jonathan works very closely with Bays, doing all of our reporting back to them, which, as I said, is vitally important for us to continue the work that we do and really be able to give a very clear picture to government of the type of support that businesses need. Matthew Heath is our growth grant project manager. So he's the man who holds the purse strings with regards to all the grant funding and allocation. I'm sure most of you know Ryan. And then Karen, my colleague, Karen, she covers the Chichester, Arran and Mid Sussex region. And then I cover currently the Crawley Gatwick area and East Surrey. Luke is our business growth executive who works very much on with the inwards investment team. So the last few slides are really just our contact details, which I won't go through, but as I say, we will be sharing these slides with Gatwick Diamond, with Sally and the team. So hopefully they can actually share the slides with you. We have a lot of information on our website that you can always click on to find out about our grant funding, subscribe to our newsletter to find out when any grant funding is going live, and any interesting news stories and things that you might want to know about. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop my screen sharing so I can see everybody.
Well, thank you, Fiona. Thanks, Richard. That was excellent. Tracy on chat has commented, really interested and informative. So there you are. You're getting instant feedback. So we'll now have the discussion. People haven't sort of loaded loads of questions onto chat. So what I'll do is invite people to ask questions in person. If I could just kick off with one, which you may think is slightly insensitive of me, I don't know, but it's you're clearly providing a lot of excellent support for businesses and much needed support, particularly in the times we've been going through and the times that lie ahead. And you've already got someone who's vouching for that. So Mark of Tamango commenting that the peer networking is amazing, would strongly recommend it, and he's nodding his head. So clearly correct. Okay, my slightly sensitive question is, we have a lot of members, some of whom are on this call today, who provide advice on a commercial basis to businesses, covering some of the ground that you cover. And I just wondered, could you comment a little bit more on your sort of relationship, on a negative way? Are you taking work away from our members, our coaches and so forth? Or actually, are you feeding work into them to take businesses to the next level of support? So slightly awkward area, but I just thought I'd raise it first.
Well, thanks for the health warning, Jeff, but it's a really, really good question. And even when I was at Business Link back in the day, the same question.
Richard, there's only you and me who remember Business Link, so we
showing your age.
I remember it.
Go on, Tim.
Well done, Jeff. No, it was the same question. I mean, the reason Business Link was actually created was to create a market for consultants, because so many businesses always felt that consultants were too expensive, just wrote reports, didn't add any value. So by having a subsidized service, we were able to engage with the clients, but not do lots of work, just identify some of the issues and then point them to specific consultants. So we actually were a market maker. And in terms of taking work away from professional consultants, although we have an ongoing service, so we probably speak to our clients once every 3 or 4 months, or if they have a particular issue, they'll pick up the phone. But it's not a deep dive service. I mean, we're not going in doing writing marketing plans for them or doing competitor analysis or raising funds. we're just helping them move it along. So I don't think we're competing at all.
No, and I think as Richard touched on there, you know, our service is free, and I know some consultants might see that as competition, but it's certainly, we very much work in partnership with organizations and individuals that can enhance our offering, because we know everybody has different areas of specialism and opportunity. So it's not about taking business away, certainly not. I just wanted to answer Mark. Thank you for that question. Yeah, we should have actually clarified our boundaries, actually, or the region the Coast to Capital covers. So we mirror the Gatwick Diamond region, just and go slightly outside those borders. So our patch is East Surrey, so from Tanbridge, so Caterham across Reigate and Banstead to Dorking, then down to Chichester, all the way across to Brighton and Hove, and up again through mid-Sussex. Our region used to incorporate Lewis, but that's now moved to the southeast LEP, and Croydon has now moved to the London LEP. So that is our region that we cover. So thank you for that question, Mark.
So I'll pick up Nicola's question about COVID support. So yeah, I would say we don't have a conversation with a business in the last year that hasn't included COVID support, either because their business is closed down altogether and they want to talk about grants or funds that might be available, but certainly not limiting. And I would remind everybody that from tomorrow, there's another round of grants available from local authorities to qualifying businesses. So whether that's to do with rates, discretionary grants, or so forth. So I would look at your own local authority's website or refer to us. And also there's a new grant going to the councils called the Welcome Back Fund, which I was just on a call with the Surrey local authorities. They haven't had the criteria for it, but I would keep an eye out for the Welcome Back Fund. I think it's mostly going to be to do with retailers, but details await further announcements.
Yeah, and getting the high street back into working. Well, yeah, a bit more footfall. So Tracy,
sorry.
Sorry.
Ask on grants. One of the issues, not with all grants, I know, but with some, they expect the business to at least sort of match the funding by some percentage.
Yes.
Yeah, how big an issue is that? Because in these days, it's quite difficult for a business wanting to do it. I don't know, even if it's just a modest £20,000 project, having to find £10,000 in cash is very difficult. Do you come across that as a barrier to take up a grant?
Not well, as Fiona talked about the £2 million grant which was the COVID recovery grant, which was 50% match funding, and it was the main 50% support either came from directors' funds. The bounce back loan was one of the key ones. Sometimes it was another grant that they had. So tended not to be an issue. And some of these grants was as high as £170,000, so significant amounts of money, but mainly the grants were used for buying capital equipment, so that it was a game changer for the successful applicants, because it meant they could afford to buy equipment which they otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. So in some cases, they already had funds earmarked for the project.
And Mark has picked up that actually he's had feedback that the bigger barrier, even bigger than match funding, is the process being too onerous. Now I know that's something that tends to apply where you're accessing government funding, and often there's good reason behind it. But any comment on that?
Yeah, I think, sorry, Richard, I'll pick this up, because we recently in our team, we work very closely, and Mark specifically mentioned there the Invest4 fund. We work very closely with the Hothouse program and the Invest4 fund. And as a team, we had a meeting last week with Chichester Uni, who are running the process really. So they are very aware, and you know, in the stats that I touched on, I said only 1% of their pot at the moment has actually been allocated. And part of that reason is, I think, the process is too onerous, as Mark has said, and therefore the quality of the applications they're getting is really not great. So they aren't able to actually allocate the funding because of that. So what we've tried to do is sort of go back to basics and say to them, you know, part of the Hothouse program is actually a module on how to write a grant application. So there's actually help that is given in that way. That's actually done through the Get Set for Growth program, which is administered through YTKO. Jeremy Taylor mentioned that in the comments. So there is help available, once again, free for anybody who's thinking about applying for a grant, whether it's Invest4 or another grant, to actually take part in that course or in that module, contact Get Set for Growth, and really get that help so that you are submitting a really high level application and have an understanding of the process. So yeah, I think a lot of the time, as you say, Jeff, and as the question was, that there is this perception that it's a bit of a task when you're applying for any kind of grant funding, which it is. You know, I know the government and a lot of these funds that don't make it easy, but just to know that there is also help out there. If you are actually going to be applying for any kind of grant funding, there is some free help out there.
And Fiona, Richard, you might want to comment on Sally and Alison's questions that they've just posted. Sally's asked on timescale, and Alison is commenting that she's noticed a lot more interest for Invest4 grants, yes, over the last couple of months.
I know the timescale with our grant was probably about 3 months, because you go through a process. So initially, it's usually an expression of interest to make sure that the project qualifies in the first place before we start writing business plans and all the rest of it. And I would add to Fiona's advice that not only going on the 2-hour training program about grant applications, that we can introduce you to, I've forgotten the name of the person. Fiona, you can help me.
Nicola Wiley. I'm just putting the details in the chat. It's Nicola Wiley.
I was also thinking, what's the name of the person at Brighton Council?
Neil.
Oh,
Neil.
Yeah.
Yes, I would, before you do the application, I did this with a client just last week, have a chat with Neil about the project, because if from the get-go you can find out whether you stand a chance, you can save an awful lot of time. So for instance, this client wanted some software. He said they couldn't fund monthly software licenses, but if they paid for the whole license up front, then it would qualify. So they have therefore gone ahead with the application. So I would say that would be my first recommendation. How long it takes is really how long is a piece of string. Also depends how big the grant is. So if it's a smaller grant, their lowest is between £2,000 and £5,000. It's a much less onerous process, whereas the larger grants have to go to panels and interviews and all sorts of things like that. So it's variable. I'm not going to mislead by giving a specific on that.
I don't want to lose sight of Jeff Downes's question on peer groups, but before I go to Jeff, is there anything else in the grants area? Tim has posted a question: where is the best place to start for an overview of all funding and grant opportunities, not just the local ones?
I'll pick that one up. So there is that's a very good question. It's frustrating to think you might be missing grants just because you're not aware of them. So there is a program called Grant Finder, and different organizations run it. I can't immediately point to who runs it, but basically it's a piece of software where the algorithms within the software identify which grants you may be eligible for, and then produces a list.
Okay.
So
yeah, Jeremy's put the link in the chat.
Oh, very good.
Before I go to Jeff Downes, is there anything else specifically on grants?
I just wanted to say, Jeff, because there was a question earlier as well about any, you know, I know you touched on the match funding, but so that there is any funding that is being or come from the ERDF fund, the Economic Regional Development Fund, there is a cap on that in terms of the EU legislation. You cannot have benefited from funding with under that umbrella of more than £170,000 in a year. So if you have had other funding, for example, through Innovate UK or any other organisation that has benefited from the ERDF funding, you are capped at that £170,000. So just wanted to make that everyone aware of that.
Okay. Thank you, Fiona. So I'll now turn to Jeff Downs, just to introduce Jeff. Jeff, as well as being from Quantum, as you can see, is also chairman of Gatwick Diamond Business Executive Council, and actually runs our own. We have Diamond Leaders for Growth, which is our sort of peer group program. But Jeff, you had a specific question on peer groups, I think.
Yeah, my question covers both GDB and Quantum. So in addition to the GDB peer group, I run another 2 business leader peer groups as well. And my question is that the funding for peer groups, to what degree is it exclusive through the MD Hub organisation?
Sorry, Jeff. So what you want to know, that the funding that Costa Capital has, is it exclusively for MD Hub? Is that your question? Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah.
So I'm probably not best placed to answer that, but I can find out for you from Lou Williams, our Growth Hub manager.
I might be able to pitch in at something, Fiona.
Yeah. Richard, yeah, you might be able to, because I know we've got a partnership with MD Hub, but I'm not sure what. Yeah, sorry, Richard, do you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, Jeff.
Hi, Richard.
All the growth hubs throughout the country ran that program last year. It was the first time it'd been done on a national basis, and as every public sector organisation has to do, the process went out to tender, and MD Hub won that tender.
So that's fine. Thanks for explaining that. I just wondered whether that funding therefore was exclusive, or whether there were other streams of funding that would fund business leaders who wanted to take part in other peer groups. That's all.
No, but it had to be run by the Growth Hub. That was part of the funding requirement from BASE.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Anyone else have any questions?
I have one, if no one else has one. I always have one up my sleeve, you see. Fiona, I think this is particularly for you, Fiona. I know innovation is very close to your heart, and I go on about the importance of innovation and adaptability and flexibility in terms of moving forward through the recovery, with many sort of businesses having to look quite closely at what they do and adapting to change circumstances. Is there anything you could say more? And Kathy at Plus X, you might want to come in on this as well, in terms of the great offer that you have down in Brighton. Is there anything you'd like to say more on the innovation area and the support available?
So on the innovation side, obviously and it's just sort of come up naturally, I suppose, over the last few years, but going forward, the Growth Hub doesn't want to kind of exclude any businesses, but is certainly looking more at the innovation and therefore also partnering or funding this innovation centre that's actually going to be built, excuse me, on the Tyler site at Manor Royal, and working very closely in partnership with organisations like Plus X and the Sussex Innovation Centre, because we very much see working with those businesses, helping them on their journey, will only add immense value to the UK economy, but also, there's a lot of innovation outside, from the UK to take into other countries, but also vice versa. So the remit and the focus going forward in the coming years is certainly going to be working with innovation centres, with innovative organisations, and enhancing those partnerships. The kinds of businesses that we've probably had, and Richard's been working in the Growth Hub longer than me, but certainly, Jeff, over the last few months that I've been working, there have been naturally some businesses that have pivoted and they have really come up with amazingly innovative ideas that really just to keep their businesses going and to continue in current times. But yeah, the partnership or the innovation centre at Crawley is also very close to our chairperson, who's Julie Capsalis, who's the MD of the Chichester University and College campus. And innovation is something that's very close to her heart as well. So the focus will only continue in that regard. Kathy, I'm not sure what you want to add, obviously from Plus X's side on the innovation.
Yeah, and I think I echo obviously a lot of the sentiments around, I think all of us want to embrace innovation because it is the seed for growth. I mean, essentially the purpose why Plus X is here is to allow businesses to be able to grow and scale. And it is those new ideas, and it could be an established business or a young business that's looking to scale up. But we find, like Fiona alluded to, many have had to pivot and create an innovation within an existing established company. And that also contributes to growth. So for us, as far as we're concerned, embracing that innovation support and providing as much support as we can to allow people to really foster as much as they can through their ideas, to collaborate, get support, everything they need to set that path forward for them. And that's part of we even have a program starting in May that is literally about inspiring innovation for those who have new ideas and want to grow, be it either a business product or idea or a new product from an existing base business, to be able to take this sort of 5-month path towards innovation and help them on their movement forward. So it is really all about that. And we find just the environment helps that, but it is all about business growth, building growth within Sussex and Brighton, and keeping those businesses here to grow here and obviously maintain a growth within the economy.
Yeah, I think that's quite key that what you said there, Kathy, about keeping the businesses locally. So whilst we have got access to and can help businesses that are wanting to expand overseas or outside of the UK, it's very much about looking to keep our businesses. And that's a lot of the support that we provide, is to firstly keep our businesses sustainable, but also to keep them locally and refer them onto organizations locally that are going to be able to help and enhance the economy.
Okay, thank you. Just looking at the chat, Fiona would be interested in hearing more about the support for women in business, and you told a very positive story there. When we catch up for coffee, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Catching up for coffee. Perhaps there's something planned that I haven't.
That's something that's foreign to everyone at the moment.
Yes.
Catching up for coffee.
Did you want to comment any more on that, on take up from women or anything?
Yeah, so I think it's been, as we all know, there's been a lot of focus for a number of years now on, women, not just women-owned businesses, but actually women working in businesses as well. So in corporates, as I say, I worked for NatWest for a while, and I'm not blowing NatWest trumpet, but they were very, very supportive of women's careers within NatWest. And now there's, the group has a female CEO, which is the first female CEO of any high street bank ever. So diversity and inclusion in a lot of corporates has become a real focus, which I support 100%. And Coast Capital's taking up of this license with this MNAI platform has been key to that, understanding really how many women-owned businesses there are in our region. And from a lot of conversations that I have had or do have with women-owned businesses, the challenges sometimes for women are quite unique compared to men. And I don't want to alienate men. I know everybody has challenges when you're starting and running your own business, but a lot of the time, especially in COVID times, women have been taking on running their own business, running childcare, the homeschooling, trying to be a wife and a mother and run your own business is incredibly stressful. And I know a lot of men have that role as well. So as I say, we never want to alienate anyone, but a lot of the support that's going forward that Coast Capital will provide, and what's been very close to my heart in my working with women-owned businesses is really the funding and finance side. A lot of women struggle to even start going down that route of applying for funding. Don't really know how to, don't have the confidence or to be able to go or know the routes to go. So a lot of the support that I've given in the past when I've been working with women-owned businesses is around the application process for funding, for grant funding, really understanding what the value in your business is, and how you can grow your business, sometimes in very sort of male-dominated industries or sectors. So yeah, so Alison, I will touch more on it when we have our coffee tomorrow. So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Well, I see there's an endorsement of +X from Alison, which is good. I want to pick up. Jeff's asked I'll raise another issue. You showed in your slide, I think it was one of yours, Fiona, the sort of sectors, and I'm not sure if you referred to them as priority sectors or whatever. From a Gatwick Diamond point of view, some of those we wouldn't particularly recognise as key sectors. We'd recognise them as niche sectors. So, you know, we have an important viticulture sector, for example, but in economic terms, it's tiny as a proportion of the economy. It is very small. You know, our digital sector, our aviation sector, our medtech sector, they're much more important to us.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, going back then to Jeff's specific question was, as you mentioned, one of the sectors you did mention, I think, was aviation. Is there anything specifically available? You know, we've been pressing government for a specific package of measures for the aviation sector because, you know, it's been so badly hit. So is there anything specific you're doing on the aviation side?
As a growth hub,
can you answer that?
Yeah, sure. So from the point of view of providing business support, we're completely agnostic as to the sector. It's whoever reaches out to us, we would support. But as you know, Jeff, in the main part of the LEP, which provides all the funding and looks at strategic issues, both at coast to capital level and also Catalyst South, which is a collaboration of 6 LEPs in the southeast working together. They are much more strategic, and as aviation is so critical, Crawley's got the highest unemployment, I believe, in the country. There definitely is a strategy at a sort of broader grassroots level, but I don't know what that is. But it would be in the strategic plan that they're working on, and I'm sure you're part of that planning, Jeff.
Yeah. No, I like the answer that actually you're open to all sectors. I don't like things that are too sector specific in a way, not at the SME level in terms of the big aviation sector and all the lobbying of government and everything else. That's a different matter. What I'd like to do, because we are running out of time, we've got 5 minutes left. If there are no specific questions, is there anything any of you would like to share in terms of what you're doing that's relevant to the sort of agenda that we've been discussing today? So we've heard from Kathy in terms of +X. Simon, I'm sure there's an enormous amount you could say about, you know, the support that local authorities have been doing through the various grant regimes. I'm not pressing you, Simon. You don't have to say anything. Is there anything anybody else would like to share?
I think Jeff.
Jeremy, I knew Jeremy would come in. I was trying not to catch him.
Just really going back to the grant thing and picking up and maybe drawing a couple of things together, which is that it is a difficult job to apply for a grant. And yes, you are likely to get, I think in the case of Hot House, 40%. I'm working on a scheme in East Sussex called Southeast Business Boost, which is 30%. And there's challenges around whether something is capital or revenue. Does it help buy an asset? So just work with a company that's looking to buy a van and some racking to improve their delivery business, and that's fairly straightforward. But the key thing to remember in grant applications is that even though it's a grant and it's seen as free money, you still have to make the case to basically an investor that the company, the organization and the business is viable, that the market's viable, and the people are the right people to do the work that you're looking for, that investment. And if you approach it as if you were viewing it for an investment in the company, then it's a different mindset, which is a little bit more positive. But it is work, and it's been mentioned a few times, but Nicola from YTK, that company, is a member. Mandy will introduce her, and it's a free service to give you advice on how to complete the application. You still have to do the work, but it's very, very well worthwhile engaging with someone that understands the system inside out and talks to the panel as well. With Southeast Business Boost, because we're intermediaries, we can talk to the panel and say, does this work? Is this acceptable? Before you go down the road of investing time. But it's well worth it. The other thing is, as has been said, just apply for things as well. Keep an eye on, I put a link to Grant Finder, which sadly is now broken. So that's always helpful, isn't it? But that's quite useful. In Brighton, there's a Reset Restart program, which is for business advice and support, and that's funded by the British Library. So there's a lot going on. It is almost a full-time job. So I might suggest that organisations like GDB or others actually, whether there's a way we can link in with all our organisations to pool this information of advice and guidance and support underneath one banner. I think obviously it would sit well within the Growth Hub, and keep an eye on there. The last thing is really just ways in which businesses and consultancies, it was referenced earlier, can work with Coast to Capital as well. So keep an eye on the tenders and the work for us page.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's helpful.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to share anything? Yes, Jane.
I want to ask something. I apologize for my ignorance to begin with, but I'm a financial advisor and I'm currently renting an office, but in the process of purchasing of an office, which will need a lot of work doing because it's just in a shell condition. Would that qualify for some sort of help in some shape or form? Or
I think Jana, I mean, with the grants that we had rules. For instance, we just talk about a van. Vehicles weren't funded, so different funds had different rules. Construction and improvements were a difficult one for us to say. So my advice would be to speak to Neil about whether that would qualify at Brighton and Hove. You can find his details through the Invest4 fund before you do any work and see, if I'm doing a refurbishment, does that qualify or not?
okay, thank you.
Jana,
Yes.
depending on where the office is, would it be might be worth looking at? Could Locate East Sussex help? I don't know whether you're aware of Locate East Sussex, but they, I believe, have some help available for businesses that are locating into the region.
They do.
Might be worth a look.
Yeah.
Thank you. Locate East Sussex.
Yeah.
And the other thing, just thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that. I'll look into that. The other thing is, as a financial advisor, I provide advice to individuals and business owners. Is there any way you could, maybe I can help, collaborate in some shape or form to sort of do workshop seminars or help? You said you help businesses with various experts, so there's just putting it out there to Fiona and the gentleman from Coast to Capital.
We'll have to make this the last question, I'm afraid.
Sorry, you're wanting to know if there's how you can put the work that we do out to your customers. Is that what you're saying, Jana?
No, what I'm saying is I could help other businesses. I could do a no obligation chat or presentation or talk about.
Oh, I see. That we, so we don't do our own sort of presentations. We would always partner with somebody like Gatwick Diamond or one of the chambers. We don't actually run our own events. We always partner with other people or organizations. But yeah, I mean, certainly the only way really is internally via our team, is to make our team aware. If you maybe want to send me an email, Jana, with your, what your business is, what you do, I can most certainly make the rest of our team aware of that you're out there, and to refer any customers with those specific types of questions your way. Is that okay?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an useful way to end, in a way, because we have enormous expertise within the Gatwick Diamond business community, and that's
we do.
Some of our own initiatives now, our Diamond mentors and Diamond experts and our Diamond training programs. So and that's a big thing that we're about, actually, is sharing that expertise across the membership. Well, listen. Thanks, Fiona and Richard. That's been really excellent. When you get a chance,
thank you, everybody.
Look again at some of the positive. You're getting really positive feedback coming.
Yeah, thank you.
As people are leaving. Now, I know there's a way of people saving the chat, because there's lots of really useful links. I think you just click the file button or something.
No,
Like-
you click the little at the bottom. Yeah, so next to the file, there's those 3 little dots. You can click on there and then it says
Right.
save chat and you can save it.
Okay. There's me trying to pretend I know more than I do again. Okay. And also, I think I'm right, Sally, that we have recorded this session. So you can look back at it if you would like to. And I think Sally's put an email or a message on rather about circulating the slides. So thanks again. A round of real applause. We don't do virtual applause. Real applause.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you
Thanks
to
to everyone.
Gatwick Diamond for hosting us as well. Thank you.